Hey, good evening. It is Thursday, May 26th, 2022. This is the Needham Conservation Commission public hearing. And my name is Jennifer Nardo, Conservation Commission Chair. And I want to just make sure that the members that are here can hear me and are able to participate. Stephen.
Here.
Peter.
Here.
Allison.
Here.
And you think Sue is somewhere still out there? She's just not here yet.
Yeah, I don't see her out there. I'll send her an email though. Try and get her in.
Okay. And then staff, Debbie.
Here.
And Clay.
Here.
So good evening. This open meeting of the Town of Needham Conservation Commission is being conducted remotely consistent with Governor Baker's executive order of March 12, 2020, due to the current state of emergency in the Commonwealth due to the outbreak of the COVID-19 virus. So by the way, Deb and Clay, if we go back to inside in June or even hybrid, or if we're supposed to get into the DPW office, we're going to go back to 7:30 because people that travel to work need a little bit more time.
Yeah. Okay.
So we'll have to make sure we make that adjustment along the way. All supporting materials have been provided, did I already say this, to members of this body and are available on the Conservation Commission website. The public is encouraged to follow along using the posted agenda unless the chair notes otherwise. We're now turning to the first item on the agenda. Before we do so, permit me to cover some ground rules for effective and clear conduct of our business and to ensure accurate meeting minutes. The chair will introduce each hearing on the agenda. I will introduce the applicant and or their consultant to begin their project presentation. After they conclude their presentation, the chair will go down the line of members, inviting each by name to provide any comment or questions. Please hold it till your name is called. Further, please remember to mute your phone or computer when you are not speaking. Please remember to speak clearly and in a way that helps generate accurate minutes. For any response, please wait until the chair yields the floor to you and please state your name before speaking. Finally, each vote taken in this meeting will be conducted by a roll call vote. Okay, first on the agenda. 0 Dedham Avenue Reservoir soil sampling, request for determination of applicability. Is there somebody here to talk about that?
Yes. Hi, everyone from Beta Group. My name is Laura Kraus. And also with me today from Beta Group as well is Craig Ellis, and we're representing the Town of Needham, DPW.
Great.
I will share my screen. I shouldn't have a problem doing that. And I'll just run through a brief presentation. Can you all see my screen?
Yes.
Excellent. Okay, so this project, what we're proposing to do right now is just collect sediment samples from the Needham Reservoir. These samples are required as we move forward towards permitting the future dredging project at the Needham Reservoir. We're not doing any dredging now, it's just the sampling. So the location of the project is at the Needham Reservoir. As you know, your offices are right here. So moving on, the resource areas that we have on site are bank to the Needham Reservoir, the land under Needham Reservoir, and the bordering vegetated wetlands adjacent to the Needham Reservoir.
Can I ask you a question when you were on that one?
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
was looking at this figure and I'm confused why the locus does not encompass the entire reservoir.
The locus does not encompass the entire reservoir because we're not proposing dredging on the entire reservoir. It is located just in this location here, and I'll get into that a little bit more.
Okay, thanks.
No problem. Stop me if any of you have questions. This is the FEMA permit. No portion of the work is within BLSF. This is a picture of the boat that will be used for sampling. It's very light. It can be carried in to the edge of the water by hand. No vegetation will need to be removed. There's no need to have a car drive it in to load the boat into the water. What they do is they drive a pole down, they collect the sample, and then they pull it up through the center of the boat as you can see here. So that's how the sample is collected. And then I have a couple of pictures to show you the location where they'll be accessing. So we'll be coming in over here and accessing through through this area, again, by foot, carrying the boat by hand. Here's another picture of kind of that general area.
There's a
again,
little bit of a, isn't there a little bit of a path there?
There
to the
is,
water
that's
that people
correct.
maybe use for
There is
fishing
a
and stuff?
path. Yep, exactly. And then you can't really see it. It kind of comes back behind these trees here where the path is. And then this is where the path gets to the water. In plan view, and I'll zoom in a little bit because you can't really see what we're doing here. So yeah, so as you said, there's a little path that kind of goes to the water here. This is our proposed access, again, by foot. They'll carry the boat to the edge of the water, and then they'll go to 16 locations, generally shown on the plans as these circles with the X's. Those will be GPS located in the field because we might not get exactly in that location. They'll collect the sample, and then in this area, they'll collect 4 grab samples or in the field. They'll take 1 grab sample it for VOCs. They'll composite them together and then collect the rest of the sample for analysis as required for the water quality certification. And similarly, they'll do the same thing in each of the other 4 areas. And as I said, this is only kind of near the bank here. If we go back to that other figure, it really, we're only really extending, into this area here for the sediment sampling, because that'll be the area where we're doing the dredging.
And you won't be doing any sampling in those other wetlands that, the project locus covers all those other wetlands. Are you gonna get into that also?
No, we are not. Nope. So the sampling is really only here. This was shown, we conducted our delineation throughout this area to just really have a good understanding of where all the resource areas were in the area. There may be, as the project progresses forward, maybe some stormwater BMPs that could be incorporated into the project. So we wanted to have a full picture of, so this kind of shows where we delineated. And then the sampling itself will be in this location.
And one thing I'd like to add on that, part of the reason too, that area, we will need an area to stockpile. So that's also part of the reason we kind of extended a little bit to kind of show the resource areas ultimately, not for obviously this part, but when the actually work takes place, we'll be needing to know the resource areas for stockpiling.
Thanks, Craig.
Yep.
So so the project locus, as shown in red.
Mm-hmm.
So when you said delineated, that's the wetlands that you delineated?
Correct. So if we go back to
Okay.
this plan here, you can see, and we also included a full delineation report with our submission of the RDA. We delineated, the extensive wetlands in this area so that we had a full picture of what's out there, so that when the project does progress, we have all the information that we need for stockpiling, for any other potential project elements. But again, the project locus for the sampling is what's shown on the plan here.
Great. Is that the end of your presentation?
That is, we're ready for questions.
Okay, yep, keep that and keep this up. I think that this is useful.
Absolutely.
Stephen, do you have any questions?
No comments.
Peter?
Yeah, so where in fact were you planning to stockpile?
We're not doing any stockpiling for this. So here we're collecting small samples,
Okay.
which will be taken back onto land, and they'll do all that, sample and putting them in jars and everything.
Got it. So that's in the future. So I guess I don't have any questions about this. I think the idea of dredging is something that you're going to come back to us and talk about.
Absolutely. We'll come back with a full notice of intent for that work.
I would like, so as you probably know, there's a lot of community interest in this reservoir right now, particularly when it comes to the wildlife there. And so I think there's going to be a pretty heavy amount of community interest in that notice of intent. And so I just want to make sure that that's publicized appropriately. so that people have a chance to understand exactly what it is that you're proposing to do. I think there, and I know you're not here to talk about the notice of intent right now, but I think the specific concerns that they're going to have are things about the beaver lodge and other wildlife, frogs and turtles and the like, that might be affected by, you know, disturbing the bottom of the pond. So that's all I'm saying for now, but this, I mean, I understand this project and it sounds pretty straightforward.
Thanks, Peter, and we do appreciate that comment. This project, even before we get to the notice of intent process, it will go through a MIPA filing with an ENF, so that'll be the first process. Of course, the Conservation Commission will get a copy of the ENF, and that can be, you know, published on your website if you'd like, you know, that, so there is even pre-information before the notice of intent.
Allison,
No comments.
Sue,
I'm assuming this is for the phosphorus content.
It's related to stormwater because the what was happening before, when there used to be a dirt parking lot there used to be runoff, including sand and such, that would end up in this area. So now that they've fixed that for the property and it's not happening anymore, they want to remove the material that ran off into this particular portion of the reservoir.
So wasn't there something from DeFazio, some kind of culvert or piping that was discharging into the area as well?
It could have been. I'm not 100% sure on that.
Okay.
Sue, anything else?
I'm done.
So I guess my other comment or question is if you could just do a quick explanation on why this area that you're sampling in. And because as Peter was saying, this is going to be, when you get to the notice of intent, very, you know, there'll be a lot of interest. And I'm sure you'll come back and explain what the time of year you're going to do it in to be the least disruptive and stuff, but why this? And I think, Craig, you slightly, you know, you started to hit on it with, this is where the sediment from maybe the dirt parking lot landed. But is it going to, is it possible that when you do, are you looking, like, what are you looking for when you, in these sediment samples? What's going to be the defining, to see the depth, to see the material, to see, is it going to be increase your whole project area? Like, what's the point?
Sure. There's a couple of things. One is we went out there because we went out there and did a full survey, a bathymetric already, to kind of get a sense for where the sediment generally was and the approximate thickness as best you could tell. And basically what we did for that was we drove a rod until we felt resistance, to kind of get a sense for where the top and bottom of sediment was. This is going to be kind of twofold. One is to certainly just sample to figure out where this material could likely go, and to kind of support the 401 water quality certification and the permitting work. But to find out if what we saw from the survey, if that coincides, because when we drive these points down, it's actually going to be in a clear tube, so you'll actually be able to see the defining layers. So to see if we're seeing something that looks like sand from runoff versus a natural lake, or not lake bed, but the natural reservoir bed from when it was built in the, I want to say the 30s, when this was put in for the town. So I'm thinking that we're going to see some sort of defining strata relative to the runoff material versus was previously there from the lake bed. Does that answer what you're?
I might just add to that, Craig, that the sampling is, as you said, it's for disposal for when the project moves, you know, as we move towards the actual permitting for the dredging. It's actually required that we collect samples. It's part of the process, so we have to sample for specific constituents, which are outlined in the RDA that we submitted. So that's a requirement, a regulatory requirement.
And this is also part of the town's MS4 requirements. Is that true or not true?
It may, I know it's
I
related to
think
this.
it's an impaired body,
Mhm.
impaired water body from what I understood from Tony.
The reservoir is an impaired water body?
That's what I understand. That's why
Yeah.
this has to go forward.
Okay, well, I'm sure that there'll be lots of questions, and as long as we're ready to answer them all, because people, I think that they did see Rosemary happen, but people weren't maybe as invested. People are very invested in the reservoir these days. It's like photos all over on Facebook, and every time you're there's a lot of people there. So it'll be something that people are paying attention to. Is there anybody in the audience that has any questions regarding this application?
I do not see any hands.
And this is a request for determination of applicability, which basically means that this is, as a sampling program, the commission can allow this to move forward without a more formal submission of a notice of intent. We understand that a notice of intent will come later for the dredging part, but this is simply taking the samples, and it's a very, I guess in my opinion, very non-invasive method to do this. So you could take that down. And Sue, you have a question?
Just a quick question. Has any dredging done at the reservoir before?
Have
I'm
we ever
sorry.
dredged the reservoir before? Is that the question?
Oh, not to my
Yeah.
knowledge. I'm not sure.
Yeah,
I can-
Okay.
I do not believe so. Not to my
Thank you.
knowledge. Okay, do we have all the information we need from the applicant? And are we ready to close this hearing and make a determination? Anybody need anything else, or do we have a motion to close the hearing?
I move that we close the hearing for 0 Dedham Ave.
I have a second.
Second.
Thanks, Sue. All in favor? Allison?
Aye.
Peter?
Aye.
Stephen?
Aye.
Sue?
Aye.
Janet? Aye. Great, thank you very much. Do we want to vote on this now, or do we want to vote on this later?
Being a determination, there's nothing that needs reviewing. We don't have
So
to.
we can just make a vote. So does anybody want to make a motion regarding this determination of applicability?
That we issue a negative determination for 0 Dedham Ave.
Second?
Yes.
Thanks, Sue. All in favor? Allison?
Aye.
Peter?
Aye.
Stephen?
Aye.
Sue?
Aye.
Yeah, aye. Thank you very much.
Thank you
And,
very much.
We'll be very interested in your notice of intent when it comes along.
Okay, thank you very much. Bye.
And there's
great
like
night.
some big snapping turtles out there. Have you seen those pictures?
Yeah.
We'll be careful. Thank you.
Next up is 0 and 11 Southfield Court and 9 Southwood Lane, Southfield Court Pond Treatments. DP file number 234887. This is a continued notice of intent. Who is here for the applicant?
Sean McCarthy from Solitude Lake Management, project
Okay.
manager. Hello.
Hello. Did you have anybody with you?
I do not.
Okay. So Thomas Wood, Southfield Homeowners Association is not here.
Not that I know of. I'm
Okay,
not sure.
that's fine. Okay, where are we at? I was not
Well-
here at the last hearing, so I'm not sure where.
Okay,
we're at.
well, last time we talked about this, we basically talked about what we were going to do at the pond, which is to, deal with some of the types of weeds that are growing there, milfoil, some of the other invasive species and that. And the board at that time seemed okay, but with some additional questions. They asked me to go by, excuse me, the bigger problem there is algae right now at the pond. So that's the main thing that we talked about. So the 3 questions that I went away with was there used to be an aeration system in the pond. What's going on with that? The other one was there was some concern that, chemical treatments seem to be needed here, year after year, with occasional years when it's not used, but has been ongoing, since the mid-teens, let's say. And then there was somebody who asked about cattails and things like that that can be used to remove nutrients along the edges of the pond that can feed the algae. So I'm happy to address those 3 questions. And we can talk about other things too. But so going back to the first one, the aeration system, when I looked, had been in operation in 2017. It's not clear why that was removed. Maybe it did not have the impact that it was expected to have. Aeration systems can be funny. Sometimes they work in some ponds and not others, depending on
I
water
have a
flow.
little bit of insight on that.
Oh, okay, please go ahead.
From looking at the previous order, it looked like it was getting clogged with algae. And so whatever treatment they were going to be using on the algae, they were hoping would work well
Instead.
enough that they could then reinstall the aerator.
Okay. All right.
So that's kind of the background.
So then it just never got reinstalled? Is that kind of what's happened?
I only know in my records, I only have a record of it being in there in 2017. And there was some talk of it in 2018. I could not find any record of it being put back into the pond in that year. So I don't know. I think they found that other treatments, this is my guess, other treatments were more effective. So because
So the last report we had received was 2018. And I don't have the folder with me, but it kind of gave a timeline of different treatments and such. And so it did list different maintenance and removal of the aerator for winter, putting it back in and that type of thing. But we only have the record up to 2018.
Right. So that's, like I say, I heard the mention of it in 2018. So the answer on that is the filter system and the aerator was removed in favor of other treatments, I believe, and it was not put back in. So the second one.
Well,
sorry,
is your opinion that it should be put back in?
Aerators can help in a lot of circumstances for algae. It is almost never the only thing that works. Because it's just adding the bubbles is, algae can be tough. Algae can move around. Algae can form in areas where the bubbles don't reach necessarily. And you don't want to install 17 of them, to get every square inch of the top of the pond and that. And even if you did, there's no guarantee it would work. So it would not hurt to put it back in. It would make some difference.
Allison?
My experience has been that aerators, in the sense of helping algae, now you correct me, please, if I'm wrong. It doesn't stop the algae. What it does is it helps with anaerobic conditions. When the algae rots, it creates anaerobic or very low oxygen levels in the pond, and that can have a real big fish kill.
Yeah, that's what I thought it was for.
So it's not so much that it's a algicide. It's not. It's to do with having, when you have algae, that will die.
Get it going. Get the bubbles to keep the fish alive and stuff, right? Isn't that? I thought that was the
My
idea.
understanding was
That's part of it. I mean, my experience with these aerators and other ponds is that it does cut back the growth to a certain extent. Why that is, I'm not sure, but it does have some level of effect on the overall, greenness in the pond and the danger of, like I say, sucking all the oxygen out of it.
Well, maybe because it increases the rate of decomposition, possibly. I don't know. And so that way it clears it up. It sort of looks clearer.
Yeah, I mean, I thought that, I mean, what are the negatives to, and why, if there's nobody here from the homeowners association, like what would be the negative with asking them to put it back in? And the only thing I can think of is a cost. And is it this particularly expensive as far as having power going to it all the time? Is there some hindrance to requiring them to put it back in? Because I think that's the point of the aerator. We allowed it to go in. We've had other people come and ask us, and part of it is, you know, where there's a little bit of a disturbance in getting it in. So we want to be careful that we're not having a big disturbance on a resource area. But if it is supporting the fish and the organisms that are living in there, that's a good thing.
So as part of the order that I drafted, I mentioned that if an aerator is installed, that it be done by a professional from Solitude, and our permit does not permit the Southwood.
Fields.
Thank you.
South
I'm
Field
sorry.
homeowners.
I'm totally like.
So-
Yes, it does not allow for the owners to put their own aerators
Put
in.
it in now, yeah. It does need to be properly sized. And
Mhm.
so I can do some research on the one that was there before. Hopefully they still have it. They can be large, you know, they can be, some of them, you know, have a base on them the size of a desk, and then a tube that comes up the center, which is usually, I don't know, a foot or so in diameter, you know. And we have some that are smaller.
And is that part of your Solitude's expertise, is putting these aerators in lakes and ponds?
Yes, we have many of them out there.
Because I think we want it in there, but I don't want to be putting a hindrance on an association that's not here.
Mhm.
And I wasn't at the last hearing, so I'm not quite sure what I'm even.
Well, like I said, I'm happy to deliver that message to them. Obviously, we'd love to work with them. It's business for us to put them in and out, you know, but I just can't make the promise for them that
Right.
they will definitely do that. And the first thing I have to find out if they still have it. It's probably in storage somewhere there.
Okay, number 2, chemical treatment annually. What's the deal with that one?
Well, when you have a small pond with limited water flow, the growth of plants tends to happen and tends to need to be addressed. We don't tend to see self-sustaining ponds until they get considerably larger than that. And it's especially difficult in an area where there are houses nearby, there's runoff from the street. You know, there's other things going on. There's geese who come in and poop and things like that. And what that ends up doing is creates a more fertile environment than what you might see in a pond or a lake that's, you know, especially a lake that's holding hundreds of thousands of gallons. So short answer is it's always going to need some level of treatment, just because of its size, its location, its shallowness, all of which helps, you know, gives algae a good place to grow. Now, some difference can be made with muck biotic pellets, which the state doesn't necessarily even need us to get a permit for. They're not considered any chemically, you know, significant. But again, that is an expense, and that is a treatment, just to put those in too. And in my experience, it does not solve the problem of algae. It just reduces slightly, just like an aerator reduces slightly.
So, again, I apologize that I wasn't here last meeting. Is your notice of intent to provide chemical treatment in this pond? Is that why you're in front of us?
Yes.
Okay.
And those are, I think, the types of chemicals that we proposed using based on conversations with our biologists, et cetera, are outlined in that document. I'm the project manager. I do the scheduling for it, et cetera. But, you know, we use copper, you know, some sort of copper or copper sulfate. Those are in there. because copper is not considered dangerous. I mean, your pipes are made out of copper, you know, and things like that. So it's one of the most common elements in the world. So putting the copper in there usually neutralizes the algae, in many cases kills the algae, falls to the bottom. And, you know, we don't really have a rule for this that you can't go in the water immediately because that's not considered a big issue. Usually we do, no matter what our treatment is, we ask people to stay out of the water for between 1 and 3 days. But in reality, the labeling on the product that's gone through review by EPA and by Massachusetts' you know, environmental group, there is no requirement for that on the labeling to stay out of the water.
Cattails?
Cattails for the first one. Yes, cattails do make some difference. We, you know, don't tend to like to see places filled with them because that can create its own issues with die off, rot, clogging things up, etc. But a few cattails here and there is not a bad thing for a pond. Most smaller ponds, people don't like to see them. It blocks views. It, you know, creates a mess in that small area, etc. It's not something I tend to go to a client and say, oh my God, you have to have these. But since you asked, yes, it does make some difference. It's not going to fix the pond, and it would be difficult to install them, to let them grow, plant them or whatever, to the extent where it's going to fix the algae problem. So you could have some, you're still going to have the algae problem.
Allison?
I would make a suggestion that if the algae is really bad and you do this copper sulfate treatment and you have a sudden algae kill, and there are fish and frogs or fish that, you know, not frogs, but fish, not amphibians, that you could create an anaerobic environment without an aerator that could kill the fish. I don't know if a lot of
yeah,
fish
there is something we do, and this is required by Massachusetts, so we do it. We treat half the pond. When I say half the pond, we treat half the volume of the pond. So there is a recommended amount to distribute, you know, for the depth and for the surface area. So we do 1/2 of that. And then if it doesn't work, we come back in a couple of weeks and do the other half.
Copper is not dangerous. You know, people can swim in it, but if you create an anaerobic environment, will kill the animals that live, that breathe through the water.
That's one of the reasons I believe that the half rule is there, is so that does not happen.
It would be great if you had that aerator going. That's all I'm saying.
At the time, yeah. Wow. I agree, and I will deliver that message. We'd love to put it back in for them.
Commission member Stephen, you have anything to add?
Couple things. So, John, do you work with other clients in Needham? I'm wondering how often we treat ponds in Needham with chemicals like this.
You know what? Let me check. I do not personally, but I can give a quick look in my database here to see what else we have.
I think we've done a couple of other ones. Maybe Deb knows. And
I would be surprised if we don't. Needham Sportsman's Club comes up, and Walker Pond comes up immediately.
But I don't believe that of the frequency that this pond gets treated. Is that correct? I mean, this sounds like we treat this pond like every year, every other year.
I'm looking for the Sportsman's Club. We haven't treated that in about 5 years. I don't know if that's because they stopped being a client or if it was determined that it was not.
They came and did a bunch of things, including putting aerators in. And they were asking to remove, like, there was something on the edge, maybe excess something, vegetation or something. They did a bunch of things to a few years ago.
Oh, Sabrina
and Walker
Lake
Pond
too.
hasn't been treated in years.
Sabrina Lake
is
and
half
Wildwood.
Sabrina Lake gets treated.
The small pond on Wildwood.
Yeah.
I guess, I don't want to single out this pond if we have precedents at other locations, but on the face of this, it just does not seem sustainable to keep this up.
Sabrina Pond has been treated several times. And in fact, they had us come in and do some hydro raking there too, to reduce
Yeah,
the
and that's
amount
my-
of.
We remember, that's not a
You
good
know about that.
conversation.
So that's my other point, is that
Yeah.
I'm not sure why Sean and Solitude are the applicant here, and we have to rake him over the coals. I think the folks that we really want to talk to are the people that are responsible for, I'll call it a mess. It's the owners of the condo association, whatever. They're the ones responsible for taking out the aerator. They're the ones responsible for paying Sean and making sure he does the work we want him to do, because we're gonna have the same problem we did at Sabrina Lake. If he doesn't get paid, he's gonna walk away, and then who are we gonna blame? Why would we blame Sean and Solitude? We should be blaming the homeowners who aren't taking.
Thank you for recognizing we didn't get paid there. I'm Sabrina, not here.
Yeah, so I'm a consultant too, so I know what it's like not to get paid.
Yeah.
So I really
Here's
have an
one thing
issue
I could say on that. It's not unusual for a smaller pond to do what they're doing. And in some towns, people ask questions exactly like you are asking. In other towns, they deal with it enough, and they know when you're talking about copper, you're not really damaging anything, you're not creating any issues, and you're following the labeling so that you're not creating an anaerobic environment. All of those reasons, some places, approve them very quickly. Conservation commissions are full of volunteers. They all have different opinions, etc. So I'm not going to tell who's right, who's wrong, but this is not an unusual situation. And as far as waiting, again, algae only gets worse. So we're already in a situation where you've got algae in the pond that personally I'd like to treat before it gets worse, because if it goes to filamentous algae, you can start creating mats, and you've got a bigger issue to clean up. So I understand if you would like to rake him over the coals. I would hesitate to delay too much on this.
Yeah, it's again, and you bring out a good point. This is going to get worse and worse because this pond doesn't want to be a pond. It should never have been a pond. It's not natural. So what we're doing is not natural. We're like creating a swimming pool that looks like a natural pond, which is really bogus.
Yeah.
And that for a conservation commission whose ideals are to promote and foster good stewardship of the natural environment, this just seems like a total farce. So that's why I want to talk to the homeowners association. They have a huge responsibility to be good stewards and to do the right thing. And pouring chemicals into a natural environment, even though right now we understand or believe they're not harmful, what are we going to find out in 50 years? 60 years ago, people thought smoking was okay. How did that turn out? When we first, the tobacco industry first started out. So again, we're only as smart as we are today, and who knows what we're going to find out 20 years from now. And they're going to say, why the hell did they let those guys put copper in that pond every year?
Well, again, I can only point to copper pipes.
There's also copper mines that are incredibly poisonous in the West. So it all depends on how much.
That's because of the other
Just a
stuff that
minute.
they're pulling up, but I understand what you're saying. Yeah. And also that it can, degrade. There's sulfur and stuff in there too, which is the big problem there.
So my big issue, I'll get off my soapbox, is that I think we should be requiring the notice of intent to be by the true applicants, which are the homeowners and not Solitude. Solitude is just a contractor working for the homeowners who have the ultimate responsibility. Thank you.
No, I think that that's a good point. And do we want to hold this and continue this and have the homeowners association show up at our next hearing so we can have the conversation with them and make sure they understand what they're doing? I feel like, we are, supporting of the resource area. I don't know, maybe more of you are experts on adding chemicals to ponds. It sounds like a bad idea, but I understand that in some places it's proven to be effective. So, but do we want to hold this? I mean, we'll continue our hearing tonight and be like, okay, we really need this homeowner association. Or do we want to have a site visit at the pond and talk to them out there?
Yeah, I don't want to interrupt your discussion. I do have one thing I'd like to request, but I'll wait because I don't want to interrupt your discussion.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, that sounds good.
Go ahead, Allison.
So the last time when you weren't here, Janet, I said, you know, I understand why you want to do this. I understand why they want to do this. And I was sort of entertaining the idea of having an approval for this for one time. But you can't keep doing this over year after year after year after year. There has to be another solution to throwing more and more chemicals at this little swimming pool, as Stephen said. We have to find another way, or a better way, or, you know, just less, I mean, and there may not be another way. But I think that I was inclined to approve, because we are running out of time, you know, this is the time to do it. If they really want to do it, and we've approved many times before, to do it this year, but that's it. Then we have to have another discussion, another way of figuring out what to do with this pond. And then you really do have to talk to the homeowners. That's my opinion.
Peter, do you have an opinion?
Yeah, I kind of agree with Allison on this, that there has to be an end to it. I vaguely remember having a similar discussion to this 3 years ago when we renewed it. I think we need more reports. I mean, that's a common complaint, but we haven't been getting regular enough information about what actually is happening there. I definitely agree with Stephen's point that the homeowners association needs to be looped into these discussions, and it can't just be a technical fix given to a contractor. There's more of a philosophical question, I think, that needs to be raised about why this pond, why the pond the way it is, what are some alternatives to the way it is? Does it need to have grass growing right up to the edge of the pond? I mean, that those sorts of things I think should be discussed at a higher level.
I mean, when you have long grass at the edge of the pond, you don't have nearly the geese problem, because they don't like to go through the long grass. I mean, there are other ways of approaching this. But if you have grass all the way down to the pond, even if you don't fertilize it, which is unlikely, you're going to have geese.
Sue, do you have an opinion or comment?
Yeah, I talked with Stephen and Allison and Peter saying, I think we should see the exact intent of the homeowners.
But is this request for this year only, or is this a 3-year request?
Usually the notice of intent is for, excuse me, condition, it's 3 years, excuse me. I'm occasionally 5, but 5 is almost never done anymore. It's for 3.
And
But I mean, you could do it with a stipulation. My suggestion was going to be actually what Allison said. You can do it and say, you know, I would hate to see him meaning the people I talked to there, have the rug pulled out right as the algae is getting bad. You could argue whether it's a surprise or not, but I think it would be to him. And just say, we need from you a longer term plan as to how you're going to reduce the impact that's whatever's causing the algae to form there for the long term, and give him some time to work with, whether it's us, whether it's a landscaper or whomever, to say, you know, this is our new plan going forward, which is going to be better. But right now the algae is growing. I'm concerned that if we put it off another month to another meeting, he's going to have a bigger mess, and you may end up with dead fish, you know. So there's a stewardship that might be required there.
Any other commissioners have any comments? Anybody in the audience have any comments?
I don't see any hands.
So does the commission, do we want to add as a condition that the association comes back to us in a year with a strategy of moving forward So it's not in 3 years where everybody will forget that this conversation happened. But next year, and we have something that's going to remind us that they need to come back to start the process of coming up with a more natural design, natural solution. Is that a good idea, bad idea? Thoughts?
Sure.
Peter?
Yeah, is it possible to not do the conventional 3-year, but actually do a 1-year? Is that possible in the framework of this proposal?
I have a feeling it's
No,
not.
it's a 3-year.
But I think we can have a condition, like we frequently have conditions that they have to come back with, plan sets and whatever. But I think we can have a condition that they come back in a year. And then if they don't come back in a year, and in 3 years, somebody comes back asking us for this, we are not pulling it from under them. We've said clearly that they needed to come back and start talking to us. And if they don't come, that's the end of this process for them.
I would deliver the message to the client that a transition is needed.
Yes, that would be appreciated. Thoughts on that? Are we ready to close this hearing? And we can fine tune our conditions?
Do we close the hearing for 0 to 11 Southwood Court?
Can I have a second?
I second, under that condition that they would come back in a year.
Yeah, we will discuss the order of conditions at the end of our hearing, so we can make sure that something in, the wording is figured out correctly. Okay, all in favor, Stephen?
Aye.
Peter?
Aye.
Susan?
Aye.
Allison?
Aye.
Janet, aye. Great, thank you very much. And just, let your client know that it's time to come up with Plan B.
Well, indeed. So
Thank
thank
you so
you very
much.
much. Have a good night.
Okay, other business, 182 and 190 Edgewater Drive, DP file number 234853. This is a request for certificate of compliance. And who is here for the applicant?
Yeah, this is Ardi, Chain Engineering. Hold on a second. Okay. If I can share the screen, I can show you what it is that we're doing. Oops. Okay. So I was at the previous meeting for the minor modification. These are the items that we are asking for a certificate of compliance. The planting is already done. The information has been provided to the commission. There is this October will be 1 year. Next October will be the 2 years. The things that are different between what was proposed and what actually got built on the ground is that the swimming pool is installed 0.8 feet higher on elevation. The other item would be stairs from existing deck to pool deck are reduced in size. Catch pool is installed. Catch pool is installed wall 2.5 feet narrower and 22 feet longer.
Hey, sorry, Artie, what is a catch pool?
It's an infinity pool. So what's happening is that they have like what they were doing is that the edge where the water was going to fall down, the width of that channel where the water was going to fall down was almost 5 feet. So from the edge where the water will be sitting, where the water will cascade like 4 feet down, that ditch, for lack of better words, they call it a catch pool, I guess. What's happened is that they were keeping that at, it was proposed at 5 feet, but they did not install it at 5 feet. They installed it at 2.5 feet. And by doing that, they got in trouble with the building department because now the building department said, hold on a second, a kid can use that edge to jump on top of the pool, and they forced them to put a fence around the pool, which they tried to avoid before, but they got caught. So they just made it narrower, but it's longer than the actual pool itself. The pool house is installed is smaller inside, is 20.3 by 22.3 compared to 24 by 19. It's just as they build it. Stairs connecting the pool deck with tennis court are installed next to the pool house. Pool deck bumped toward the street 4.4 by 19, and 4 light posts in total are installed around the tennis court. And I'll show you on the screen what I mean by each one of those items. Can you see the screen?
Yes.
Okay, so what I was trying to say, you see this wall in here where we're saying catch pool? So
okay.
the water from the swimming pool, here's the retaining wall, and this width in here originally was going to be bigger, the distance from this wall to the second wall. So what they ended up doing in the ground was they made this 2.5 feet narrower, but it's longer because it's extending beyond the actual pool itself. I don't think that would be a major change, but this is what we were referring to when we said
Yeah,
that this
that's
is
fine. I just didn't understand what it was.
yeah, and when it comes down on the approved plans, we had the steps starting from this edge all the way to the other edge, from the deck to the swimming pool. So the stairs got smaller. This deck in here was proposed to be on a straight line. Instead, is projecting in another 4 feet. So this bump out toward the tennis court. This is the corner that we were referring to. And then here is the 4 light posts. We got a light post in here, a light post in here, a light post in there, and a light post in there. I remember when we went through the approval process, the question was asked about the light posts, and at that time wasn't decided. I did meet with the commissioner, Dave Roach, and he did not have a problem with the site. He already has inspected it. So, but because 2 of them fall inside your jurisdiction, I kind of pointed it out. And this is how they have the fence now, that because of this catch pool being smaller. Other than that,
how's the drainage working out there?
So far, they haven't had any issues. I made them have the inspection ports to grade so that it's easy for us to do the inspections, and we'll be providing on a yearly basis the report. The homeowner is actually using the tennis court, and he is very happy with it. They have done a good screening here in the front, and I think it looks real nice. If you are in the area, stop by to check it out. I think they did a good job. They haven't had any issues with drainage so far.
Do you have any photos of this from anybody?
I think Deb did take pictures.
Yeah.
It's fine.
Let me see. Well, you guys have another year because of the plans, but you know, it's a real good place. Came up pretty good. And you know, there is some crushed stone that they have put around the building, but I don't think that was significant. It's just good housekeeping kind of thing. And also they have done with crushed stone the entire area around the swimming around the tennis court, so it looks nice.
Is the shed on the?
Yeah, here is the shed.
I know. Is it on your deviations or minor mod?
We got the minor mod on the last meeting for the shed. Yeah.
Okay.
So we got the minor mod on the last meeting for the shed and for the fence that the building department made them put in. You see, here is the fence. So
And it looks like the pool house is just over that easement line.
It's standing up in the air.
Oh, okay.
We had staked it on the ground. I did meet with Dave, the commissioner, and I said, what is your thinking about this? Unfortunately, it's a little bit over, and he didn't think that would be an issue. He said that it's a moot point. There is no problem when accessing it. So he
Good.
didn't make it an issue, so I let it go.
Good. All right. He doesn't care, then we don't care.
Well, it's just that I guess it doesn't have an impact in my mind. And as far as the fence in here, there is a sewer easement. If it is that the state of Massachusetts ever wants to dig in here, they can certainly remove the fence.
Remove the
And,
fence.
and
That's fine.
this thing being, 3 feet up in the air for an excavator to be able to do the work, he didn't think that would be an issue.
Okay, great,
So I didn't assume I did talk to him.
great. Deb or Clay, do either of you have any comments about this?
No, I've been out there several times. I've met Artie out there and kind of gone over everything. So I think everything's covered, and so this would be a partial, right?
I believe so.
Yeah.
We want a partial because we need another year for the vegetation. It's my understanding that you guys require 2 years of plant survivor. I believe was in October when we gave you the letter with all the plants that were planted. I'll be happy to produce it again. But my hope is that next year, when the 2 years are up, we'll be asking for a full one.
Great. Commission members, Stephen, any comments?
No comments, sorry.
Thank you.
Peter,
No, I'm good.
Allison,
No comment.
Sue? Are we all
comment.
set? Are we all set to issue a partial certificate of compliance? I'll take a motion.
I move that we issue a partial to certificate of compliance for 182, 190 Edgewater Drive.
Can I have a second?
A second.
All in favor, Peter,
Aye.
Allison,
Aye.
Susan,
Aye.
Stephen,
Aye.
Janet, aye. Great, thank you very much for the
Thank
explanation.
you.
We will all drive by and check it out.
Appreciate it. Thank you again. Have a good night.
Can we use it?
Well, it's nice to see it, but I don't know about using it.
I know.
Thank you very much. Have a good night.
Let's
Thanks.
use.
Oops. Okay, so I'm having a little problem with my thing. Okay, so we have something else on the agenda for Brookside Road. Who's talking?
Hi,
Say your name for the record.
yes, I'm Karen Dacey, and I'm here with my husband Tim, who I moved with to 44 Brookside Road 22 years ago this summer, as well as our attorney Len Davidson, who's going to present on our behalf. But before he does, Tim and I just want to thank the commission for the opportunity to participate in this discussion and give our apologies for not attending the last meeting, which we didn't know about until late that afternoon. We just want to let you know that we want to do the right thing and help restore the land owned by Mr. Russell and under the commission's jurisdiction. We had no intention or awareness of violating the regulations. And Len will take it from here.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Leonard Davidson, and as Karen explained, the Dacey's had no awareness that there was a violation, that this is not their land, that apparently is subject to Conservation Commission protection. We don't actually know what the contours of the area are. This problem with Mr. Russell arose out of a listing by my clients of their home for sale. Mr. Russell attempted to purchase it for a below market value price, and my clients were not interested in selling it to him, although he had threatened litigation. And if they had sold it to him, there wouldn't have been litigation. And this has resulted, ironically enough, about a year ago, around Father's Day, there was a discussion between Tim Dacey and Mr. Russell, where the question of encroachment onto Mr. Russell's property was addressed. Tim offered to remove anything that was encroaching, and Mr. Russell said, no, that was not of interest. And when this came up about possible encroachments, one of the things that we did was we said, well, we don't know exactly where the boundaries even of our own property were. And so we hired a surveyor to actually come out and survey the line. Interestingly enough, Mr. Russell had marked out what he considered the boundaries to be, and he actually sprayed some orange paint and put down some stakes, although he's not a surveyor. And we hired a surveyor. In fact, Artie, who was just speaking in the prior matter, came out and showed where the true boundary lines were. And so we now had an understanding of exactly where our boundary lines are. They were marked with surveyor stakes so that there's no question. And
was there an encroachment?
So it's very interesting. So if I can share my screen here,
Yep.
I will be able to show you where the lines were that Mr. Russell thought, and then I can show you where the actual lines are. So this is a view out the back of the Dacey's property. And this is the line that Mr. Russell drew. There had been an area of for gardening on this side of the property. Mr. Russell claimed that it was on his land, but as it turns out, it was not. It actually was on my client's land entirely, and they actually ended up removing that structure. It was just a place to keep garden vegetables, flowers. And so once that was determined, then the issue came up about whether there was some conservation commission issues. And we have been very willing to work with the commission to make sure that anything that my clients did that in the wetlands or bordering wetlands would be addressed. We offered to do that with Mr. Russell. And what my clients have really done is used the land for gardening purposes. And this is a view of the area. And as you can see, I don't know how many of the members of the commission have come out to look at the property, but these stakes are the actual boundary lines. And what my clients have done is basically gardening in the area that goes beyond their property line. They planted flowers, vegetables, and put down some pea stone. Other than that, move some of the stones that they found in the area. You can see here that there were some stones moved, but didn't bring in any other unnatural materials or materials that they didn't find on site. There at one point they used some stakes to support plants or to cover plants. And Mr. Russell has made it very clear that he doesn't want my clients stepping foot onto his property, posted a no trespassing sign, so my clients have not further stepped onto his property. As I say, we don't know exactly where the limitation of the bordering wetlands is, but my clients have offered to assist Mr. Russell by contributing to, I guess, remove the pea stone that may be here and redistributing the rocks that they found there. And if the commission would say they would like us to level off the land, the topography really wasn't changed though. It's not as if they took out dirt or moved in dirt or any kinds of other material. My clients have offered to pay for that to Mr. Russell because this is not their land, and if he doesn't want their landscaper on his land, that's his right. But it's not as if we were saying no, we won't do anything. We're saying if there was something that we did that was inappropriate, we're happy to rectify it by contributing to the cost. It's not that extensive in terms of what work we did. And we didn't bring in construction materials. We didn't bring in waste materials, and they have not used any kind of artificial fertilizers. Compost was used for the garden, and there you have it.
And Deb or Clay, have you been out to this site?
Yes, I did meet with John Rockwood out there. Probably 2
And
weeks
does
ago.
it appear, besides the fact that it's Mr. Russell's property, from a wetlands point of view, is there an impact, fill, changes of grade, impervious material that we would require removal of?
So there is the stone. I don't know if there was a patio on top of the stone area or if it was just stone. But that is on top of material. So that would be relatively easy to remove. It did seem like there was some type of wooden border, maybe in one of the planting areas.
And this is, I assume, within 100 feet of, like, how close to the wetland are we talking?
Yeah, so it's in the outer 50 feet.
It's in the outer 50 feet, but
Yeah.
it's within 100 feet, somewhere
Yeah.
between 50 and 100 feet.
Yep.
So if taking out the issue that it's an abutting property, if this was their property, would we require them to add wetland plants or wetland seed mix, removing the stone? That's our typical, what we would typically do, wouldn't it be?
I don't think it's enough impact that we would probably require planting of shrubs and such. I think that, I don't know if you could see in the picture, but the area adjacent to it is mostly ferns, which I assume would move into the area. I know John Rockwood has been out there and kind of listed, what Mr. Gordon thinks
Are the impacts.
Yes.
To Dr. Rockwood or Mr. Gordon or Gordon Russell, sorry, like to comment?
I'll take a start at this and then Gordon can add his information on this. He contacted me to come out and look at the area because some activities occurred on his property. And we had delineated the wetland in this area several years ago. I basically delineated the entire property. There's a projection of wetland that comes up towards this area. This area is absolutely within the 100-foot buffer zone and very close to the 50-foot buffer zone. I met out there with Debbie and we discussed things, and I put together a listing of the things that should occur to bring the area back to as close to what it could be in its previously existing condition based on what I could observe. And I provided an email to Debbie with that information. Basically, there was a pea stone patio and possibly a slate patio in the area. There were a couple pieces of slate left, but there was a pea stone patio on top of some underlying fabric. There were 2 areas of raised soil beds with basically soil, and there was some supporting wood and probably some underlying fabric. There was brick, stone, and other edging to the areas. There was wood chips that were spread out around the area that had been turned into gardens and patio. There's a couple of soil piles over near the fence, further over near the other property line. There's some stone and concrete piles further down slope. And there's some cut logs and some other things in the area. And Mr. Russell was looking for those materials to simply be removed over the 44 Brookside Road property. And there's a pile of leaf material out there that could be spread over the soil when it's brought back to the original soil surface to sort of mulch the area and allow the area to restore itself naturally. So those are my observations of it. Deb and I, were out there, we looked at it and we discussed these. But basically the only way to get this material out is over the 44 Brookside property, because going all the way down on 62 actually brings us through a wetland before we get back to the 62, the main body of the 62 property. So
But it can go over the 44.
it would have to go over the 44, yes. And the work should really occur by hand. It looks to me like the work occurred by hand, coming in one wheelbarrow load of material at a time. It doesn't look like there was heavy equipment used. We actually have a video showing material being brought in with a wheelbarrow. So that's
And Clay also has pictures that I took during my site visit.
So I don't think we need to play the video, but basically it's a video of someone pushing a wheelbarrow and dumping a load of soil into one of the areas. So, or wood chips.
So I kind of keep going back to, like, if we were to do an enforcement on this, we would, because this was a filling or, changing without getting a permit from the Conservation Commission. So putting it back, we can either, I assume, have an enforcement order, which I don't exactly know how that works on which property, or we can have a notice of intent for the work to be removed. And I would assume that notice of intent would be totally prepared by 44 Brookside, but the property owner for 62 Brookside would need to sign it because it's his property and agree that this work is going to happen. So
Also, I think 44 may have been sold. Is that
okay?
That just
That adds a little confusion to the whole thing. Mr. Russell, do you have anything you would like to add, or did Dr. Rockwood take care of, hit all your points? Yeah, you're still on mute for some reason. There you go.
There we go. John did a good job. I would like to comment on the fact that Len Davidson, representing these folks, misrepresented the situation. I just, for the record, want that to be on the record. He stated before us all that no material was brought in to the area. And we have video of the homeowner bringing in material into the area, dumping it repeatedly with a wheelbarrow. And I just would like to make that very clear, Len, that you've misrepresented before the board, and I take exception to that. And I think it puts into jeopardy everything that you said, because most of what you said was just purely a dream. When I noticed that the homeowner was on my property, I went out to speak with him. And he was aggressive and irrational and verbally abusive to me. I did not give him permission to stay there. I simply left the conversation because I felt threatened. I simply wanted him to acknowledge the fact that he was on my property. And he wasn't gardening. He had a fire pit. He had a patio. He has chairs out there, which I have photos of. And I think we need to see this for what it is. It's a illegal problem for that. It's trespassing. It's squatting. It's offensive in America to have this go on. But beyond that, it's clearly within the buffer zone. And when I tried to work something out with them and listen to them, because they have been amenable to fixing the problem. And so that I'm not disputing, and I'm grateful for that. But it was clear to me that it was within the wetland zone. I'm not a surveyor, and I was off by a foot or two on some of that area, but it's clearly on my property and it's clear in the buffer zone. That's when I contacted John Rockwood and I said, what do I do? Can I let them do this? Should I do this remediation? And he said, you can't, because it's in the 100-foot zone. And so that's when I had to come before the board and go through this this action. And I would like the board to remember, I didn't do anything. We're here not because I did something, and I want to just make that very clear, and hope that you will issue an enforcement order here, because in fact they have sold the property, and how will I ever get them to do anything if they sell it and go? I won't. And so I need an enforcement order, and I think it has to go onto my property and 44 Brookside. I read the law, and so I'm hoping that that's what happens, and that we can then get this thing remediated and done. Thanks.
Thank you. Attorney Davidson.
Thank you. I'd like to respond. So first of all, I don't think I misrepresented to this commission. If I was inaccurate on a small amount of facts, so be it. But that, of course, it was not intentional. What I said was that they were not bringing in artificial materials. What they brought in were plantings. I talked about the fact that they brought in pea stone, and there were fabrics that were used for cover the ground. So I'm not taking back what I said. I want to be clear that I always speak honestly when I appear in court or I appear before local authorities. So that's first of all. Second of all, what we have here is a catch-22, because we offered to take care of this problem directly with Mr. Russell. We offered to have a landscape person come out, resolve the problem. We have a no trespass sign that was put up in its place, and therefore we couldn't go onto the property as we had offered to do. So it's very easy for him to say, okay, you're taking care of the problem, but we can't be allowed to do that. So we were put in a situation where we had no way of resolving the problem cooperatively, as we had offered to do, and as Mr. Russell appropriately acknowledges. And so, we're happy to cooperate. We offered to pay for the cost of what we did, not what was done by others, because not all of the things that are on Mr. Russell's property, concrete or foreign materials, were put down by my clients. And I'm sorry, this ends up being a dispute. I see Mr. Russell shaking his head, and it's not for this commission. Let me finish, sir. It's not for this commission to start calling the balls and strikes as to who put down the concrete, who put down this thing, because that's not what we're here about. We're here to resolve a problem, and we've offered to do so. We're offering again to pay the cost to remediate the problems that we inadvertently caused. And we know that there are exceptions and exemptions from regulations under the bylaw for minor activities, which these are. And if it means removing some of the soil, we would be absolutely willing to pay for the removal of the soil. If he would allow us to do it ourselves, we'll do it ourselves. And so I think that this is certainly not a situation where we're saying, oh no, we would have no intention of helping to correct. We would. My clients have offered to do so, and they're being extremely cooperative and would like the opportunity to assist. We certainly have offered it.
Okay. You've said you've apologized enough times, I think.
No, I'm
Thank
not
you very much.
apologizing. I'm
Thank you for all of your words. Yeah, but we're that's good. So I think the Conservation Commission's point here is that we want work. We're here to protect the wetlands. We're here to protect the buffer zone. We would like to see that corrected. And I think, I guess if the property has been sold, we then need to, I think then it becomes an enforcement order against the property owners of 44 Brookside, and the work needs to happen on 62 Brookside. So if anybody, Deb or Clay or any of the commission members have a suggestion, because we could do.
No, we do need to issue it for both. If
Okay.
you remember, we did that before, a few years ago.
Yep.
Someone was
that's
allowing
fine.
dump trucks to come and dump
Yep.
dirt
Yep.
over the steep embankment onto
Yep.
other property. And we had like 3 different enforcement orders going for all
Yep,
the.
I do
different-
remember that, but then there was one property owner that was actually paying for it, because that is the goal, is that, I think everybody has acknowledged that the property owners for 44 Brookside did the alterations within the buffer zone. That's the piece that we would like to have corrected, and we just need to put the right paperwork in line so that actions can happen. Anybody have an issue with that?
No.
Mr. Dacey?
I'm sorry. Are you hearing me? So I'm just wondering what this has to do with our property at all. This seems to me no different than a dumping issue, where you wouldn't go against the person's property who dumped it. What does this have to do with our property?
Well, it only has to do with your property. If you were the property owners that impacted the buffer zone, which is what we care about. So the conservation.
So we do
Commission-
have individual responsibility. I understand that. Why do we
So
have
that-
property responsibility?
Well, I just refer to you as the property owners of 44 Brookside because that's just the reference.
Yeah, no, I mean, just to be clear, Karen and I are perfectly, we want to get this cleaned up. We offered to get it cleaned up last year.
Mhm.
We're happy to do so. We're happy to set aside money for anybody that wants that, but this has nothing to do with the title or deed in our property.
No, we never, no.
Okay, that's kind of what's
said-
implied when you start talking about enforcement against our property. So I get.
Oh, no, only against the property owners. Not, the enforcement would be against the owners, so that work can happen. And I want to make sure that anything that the commission puts in place is proper legal kind of jargon, but that is our intention. Our intention is to have the buffer zone restored. And I believe everybody else's intention is to have the property owners of 44 Brookside do that restoration, or pay for that restoration. However, the property owner of 62 Brookside has to agree to it because it is his property. So that's kind of where we land, so we want it, I think we all want it cleaned up, and you guys are gonna pay for it. So
We're gonna issue the enforcement against the new owners.
the new owners are the new owners? Why aren't we issuing it against the Daisies? We have to issue it against the property, not the people.
This is what I'm saying. It has nothing to do with the property. We're responsible. Karen and I are responsible, not the property.
John Rockwood has his hand up.
John?
Basically, the enforcement order goes against 62 Brookside. And to put this in other perspective, the Daisies are the contractor who did the violation. So the enforcement order goes to both parties. The Daisies as the contractor and Mr. Russell as the owner.
Okay.
Okay, that makes sense to me. Yeah, that's.
But the only way the stuff can come out is across 44. It can't go out all the way around.
So is the new property owners going to have an issue with the with workers coming through there? I mean, it should be done by hand, and I think that's what we want to have in our.
Yeah, it can also go out through 60 Brookside.
60, that's a whole nother property owner. I mean, that just seems crazy.
No, I'm just saying there's three properties that can be reached from that stretch of land. If one owner doesn't allow it passage, one of the three should be able to.
How long ago did you sell this property?
I'm sorry?
How long ago did they move into the property?
Title has not yet passed.
We're closing in a few days.
Okay, so
there's still the owners as of today.
So I don't know if we need another, but it doesn't. It would be most amenable for the new property owners of 44 Brookside to allow the work to happen. All right, commission members, I'm ready for some thoughts. Stephen?
Yeah, this is very complicated. I thought at the last meeting, Deb, were you going to?
I haven't heard back.
Okay. We're going to get town council involved and see what their recommendation was. But
right.
Yeah, I think I agree with John Rockwood as far as his analogy, and it's just complicated that there's new owners at 44 that have to be brought in on this. And can that be some? I guess you said that you're closing. Can it be worked into the purchase and sale agreement that they have to allow this work, or they agree to allow this work somehow?
No, they've already signed the agreement, and so that's not something that.
Are they aware of the issue?
Yes, we have actually been upfront and told them that we've had an issue with Mr. Russell and that we're working on it.
Peter, you have anything to add?
No, thanks.
Susan?
I agree with Stephen and John.
Allison?
Yeah, and I agree with John and also with what you said, Janet. And also I would just suggest that even though this is acrimonious and unfortunate event that keeps going, that once enforcement is put forward, there usually is a deadline. In other words, that if it's not completed and fixed in a certain time, it costs more money. So it behooves all the parties, including the new owner, to get this resolved and get this done as soon as possible. And just, the past is the past. That's my advice.
Do you want to, how long do you think we should give them to have it done?
A month. Can we do it in a month?
Yeah.
Does anybody else have anything to add to this before the commission starts thinking about it a little harder?
Just say that
Councilor.
I have had a contractor go out. I can check with him tonight about his availability. He's done work there in the past. He's known, you guys. So I will check and see if he can do it within a month, and hopefully he can. I would also wonder, and it is a strange case, but if they're passing papers in days, what happens if we don't ever hear from them again? And can I request that money be put in escrow to cover the cost of doing this, so that I know that won't happen? I mean, you said they'd pay for it, but how do I know that?
Right. Because our enforcement order will be as John Rock would say, against the contractor, which is the Daisies, and that will have a dollar amount against it. And as the days go on, the dollar amount increases. So it's certainly not to their benefit, but how is that held? Becomes like a legal action. Attorney Davidson?
Thank you. So a couple of things. One, my clients would be willing to put the money with the town of Needham. And as a sign of good faith, there is no intention of avoiding that responsibility and a reasonable amount of money to cover this. Absolutely, we would be happy to put it up to show that they're willing to do it. Second of all, if the work is to be done by their contractor, we would have to have permission for Mr. Russell to get onto his land. And so that's a second matter that we just have to establish, especially if there's a time deadline here. So I want to point both of those factors out.
What are you saying, the Dacey's contractor or Mr. Russell's contractor?
The Dacey's could do some of this themselves if it means hand removing of some of the materials. They could do that or have their own landscaper do it.
We can work out the details of how it gets done. The point is it gets done.
Right, the point is it gets done. And it is,
I would say the no trespassing sign makes it complicated because, anybody even trying to transport materials to and from that site is going to have to trespass on the property, regardless if it's Mr. Russell's contractor or ours. So it just makes it complicated.
Well, I think
we can't assess whether the work is done to quality and things of that sort.
Well, Mr. Russell will be needing to give permission for any contractor to be on his property, whether he's paying, it's his contractor or your contractor.
As I said, I've already contacted Landscape America. They've done work there before. And that's who I would like to have do this work. And so I don't want the Dacey's to do the work. It just isn't, it can't be done that way.
Okay, and any objection to having, you're basically going to be paying for Mr. Russell's contractor to do the work, and that seems like a fair arrangement to me. So commission needs an enforcement order for 62 Brookside, with the Dacey's being basically the contractor they had the violation, and the work is to be completed within the next 30 days.
So we also need it on Russell's property.
Oh, well, yeah, that's what we said, 62. We also need it on 44?
Well, them as the contractor, right?
Yeah,
So not on their property, but on them.
But on them as the contractor, on them themselves.
Right. So did you guys move out of the house already?
Not yet.
Okay, so if you want to forward me where you want me to send the enforcement order to, whether it's your attorney or yourselves.
Yeah, Karen just moved today. We have a few things left, but not much. So I've been out for months.
Okay. Okay.
So
just someone just send me an email.
We'll send you an address.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
Sounds good.
That could be emailed to us as well. That would be great. But the one thing that needs to be addressed here is Landscape America is going to provide a quote for the work. We should provide that quote to who so that amount of money can be set aside.
Well, I think it's going to have to come to the commission in some way, but also to the Dacey's, because they're the ones that are going to be putting it, but we want to have a record of it. So I think that becomes part of the enforcement order.
Yeah, we've also gotten a quote informally just to make sure that Mr. Russell's being
reasonable,
price fair. Yeah.
Yeah, that's fine. It can be. You're on mute at the moment, Mr. Russell, but maybe that's okay.
It probably is okay, but Landscape America is Landscape America. They've done lots of work. I don't have a quote yet from them. They've been to the site. They'll provide the quote. It's not a question of me being anything. Yeah.
Yeah, that's fine. So you'll it's nice to have two quotes and have a good understanding, and he has his preferred contractor, which it's his property, so that seems reasonable. Do we need any more discussion on this? Do we need a vote to issue an enforcement order?
Yes.
Do you need exact wording, or do we just, our motion is to issue an enforcement order on the property at 62 Brookside Road to remove any material or material that was within the buffer zone. And by that occurred by Timothy and Karen Dacey. Is that the right wording?
That sounds fine.
What did you say, Allison?
And restore.
And restore. So is the, oh, well, the restoring is part of the and the restoring is really some gentle, I mean, this is a gentle movement. We do not want heavy vehicles out there. This is a hand kind of a thing to remove any of the pea stone, any of the timber pieces. And, you know, as far as if there's significant fill, it doesn't sound like it. It's almost like it can just be spread around a little bit. And is that fair, Mr. Russell? And then is there a seeding? I think that the ferns can grow in.
I think it's just letting, there's a pile of leaf litter there that can be spread out fairly thin over the area. And then anything that wants to grow, if you put a thick layer of stuff down, it's tough for plants to grow. If you just put a little bit of the leaf litter down there, thin layer, the ferns and other forbs and whatever can grow up through that all on their own. We don't have to seed it. The seeding the area would be more unnatural than, it's a forest, it's not a meadow.
Okay, great. That makes sense. And I suppose that is kind of, so you're kind of outlining what the contractor is putting in his quote. I think you've said it pretty clearly before. So if that's what, that should be all kind of listed in the quote. And then we'll all be like, great, this is exactly what's happening.
And that should be listed in the enforcement order as well, or,
Yeah, I think, there will be. Yeah, it's kind of like which comes first, the chicken or the egg. It would be the sooner we had, because we would include that in our enforcement order if we have it. So it's the timing on that.
And you have to determine if you want to issue fines.
Any commission members have an opinion on fines? Allison?
Like there not
I can't hear you. Oh, what?
I would like there not to be fines personally, but I would like everybody to get along and have this happen and not to come back to us saying we haven't been able to agree. If that happens, I would like to issue fines.
That's fair. Stephen, you have an opinion on fines?
No, I agree with Allison.
Peter?
I agree with Allison.
So?
I second Allison.
Yeah. Oh, good. So yeah, if we hear from you in 30 days that this didn't happen, then we start having fines happen. Okay. Did we have a motion on the actual enforcement order? I think Stephen motioned. Did anybody second it?
Can I just make one? I just want to make sure I understand. This is more of a clarifying, but it sounds like Mr. Russell controls the schedule, but we get penalized if it's late.
Yep, that's how it works.
Right? So this has been quite adversarial. I just see what's going to happen here.
Well, I think that
I mean, we can't do something if he's not getting his people to do it.
It's everybody's, because the fines are going to go on 62 Brookside as well as on the contract.
Okay. So he's motivated enough. Okay, good.
Everybody's motivated enough. This is important for all of us involved.
If there's a schedule issue with, Gordon's people, we will certainly let everyone know. And
yeah, I mean, it's probably, it's a 2-hour activity. So it just seems like it would be really great if they could get out there and the next time they're cutting his grass.
It's a little bit more than 2 hours, but
Okay,
It's,
but 4 hours?
if it's handwork, it's a little bit more because you have to take multiple wheelbarrow trips. If you have a,
That's true.
if you have a Bobcat, it's 6 trips. So,
Yeah.
but the handwork will cause less damage to both properties.
Yeah,
So,
and work it will be.
yeah.
And hopefully there can be some acceptance by the new property owners at 44 Brookside that they understand that this is happening. And that they're gonna go along with this.
Yeah,
Because
we will certainly speak to them immediately about this.
That would be really helpful. Because there won't be, this is a wheelbarrows. This is not somebody destroying their new home in any way. Okay, anything else? Did we get a second on that motion that Stephen made?
A second.
Thank you, Sue. All in favor? Peter?
Aye.
Allison?
Aye.
Stephen?
Aye.
Sue?
Aye.
Janet? Aye. Great. Thank you for your help.
Thank you very much.
Have a lovely evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do
Thanks.
we have any meeting minutes to discuss?
Thank you.
Do we have a order of conditions for Southfield Court?
We also have a scheduled update for 1297 Central Avenue.
Oh, yeah.
And I believe I sent the invitation out to Tom Schutz with Goddard Consulting. I do see that Mark Arnold is in the attendee list. I'm guessing he's filling in, so I can move him over as a panelist.
Oh, okay.
Thank you, Clay.
Hi, thank you for waiting.
So my name is Mark Arn with Goddard Consulting, and I'm here to provide an update on 1297 Central Avenue in Needham. So we have been coordinating with a contractor to get the plantings all ordered along with the seed mix. As the approved planting plan was finally approved in the last 2 weeks, we've been previously working to get those things together and coordinated, but we have not had them done yet. We hope to have things in hopefully in the next week. So at this time, we are working as fast as we can with our contractor to get everything supplied as per the planting plan and installed properly. We do think that the seeding can still be done with the appropriate mulching of the straw to ensure that seed mix stays in place, and as the rain falls, the seed mix will stay in place long enough for it to germinate. We have had success in later seedings than ideal, but I think we still have a good time of year to do it. And from that standpoint, that's the update that I have. I understand there may be some other questions, and I'm glad to take those.
And I will add, I was out at the site today, just to take a look at current conditions. The site is relatively dry. And the one thing, as the commission reviewed the restoration plan last meeting and was satisfied with the planting list, I think that staff recommendation after going out today is just to include a provision within that restoration plan for they included monitoring of the plantings to make sure that they take, but we definitely want something probably more formal in regards to the invasive species, primarily because there's quite a bit of bittersweet around the area, and it seems that the seed bank has allowed it to start coming in the disturbed areas. There was a small patch of knotweed out there as well that did not seem overwhelming, which is promising. It just seemed like a small bit, so maybe there was a small stand when it was originally disturbed, but that was not overwhelmingly out there. There was also a little bit of garlic mustard, again, not a lot, but the bittersweet's definitely something that will probably need to be kept in check, and if possible, pulled or managed outside of the areas that have been disturbed, just because it is pretty thick in certain key areas around that meadow area. In addition to the invasive species monitoring, and I'll share my screen real quick for this. I have been in contact with the neighbor who abuts on this side of the property.
Oh, yeah.
According to the restoration plan, we have the areas of seeding, and then we have the proposed shrubbery. This red line is that property line, and that homeowner just wanted to have some say over what two plantings go on his side. If he's not amenable, they could be pulled, just a couple feet to the other side of the property line, and they wouldn't be on his property. And it may turn into a civil matter with the two neighbors about what the final plantings may look like there. So staff recommendation is to just see if we can kind of bridge an amenable understanding between the two property owners to make sure that the disturbances here are accounted for one way or the other, some way that maybe is equitable to the neighbor, but primarily just make sure that any disturbed soils are returned to stable vegetation.
Yeah, the abutting property owner seemed very willing to work with the homeowner.
Yeah.
And so hopefully that it has nothing been shown to the abutting property owner yet.
We did forward this plan to him. I was trying to coordinate with Tom, with Goddard, to get out there to walk that wetland line together and just review this plan and potentially pull in the neighbor. Tom and I we had conflicting schedules. The times that he was free and vice versa, it just didn't line up before tonight's meeting. We are still in contact about conducting that site visit. So I was out there just solo today, just to pull a couple photos and just take a look at the current site conditions again regarding those invasive species. But I think that if Goddard is amenable and if the homeowner is amenable, potentially having a period of the site visit that we coordinate joint to also allow the neighbor to come down. He was not able to attend tonight's meeting, and I think that he has some comments that are a little bit outside of the scope of what the commission oversees as is. So again, I think limiting some of the understanding between the two homeowners and how the commission's role plays into this is important. But I do think that it would be a good idea to have at least a brief period to have him join in on a site visit just to review again this area where his concerns on his property are.
Yeah. Is that something that Goddard Consultant can reach out to the abutting property owner and find a time that's?
I would say, yeah, we're definitely willing to work with that property owner. Usually, sometimes we have a pre-construction meeting, Clay, before we do stuff, and I'm sure we could coordinate to have the property owner there at the same time and go through the questions. Again, we could switch out which shrubs go where. We could put the two silky dogwoods there if they want more of a flowering shrub on their property, or the sweetberry bush, depending on what they want. But I think as long as there's nothing that's a burden to swap, adding species that we already ordered, that we definitely can move species around as necessary. I don't think that's going to impact the goal of the plan. And with regards to invasive species management, we usually do that. When with regards to monitoring, we usually do that while we're out there planting, and then when we're out there monitoring, we're checking in invasives, and if there's additional hand pulling that's needed, we'll bring in a crew to do hand pulling so that we can keep up with things to try to avoid having to do anything else more intrusive.
Great. Yeah, I think so. Clay, you said that you sent this to the abutting property owner. It would just be nice. And when are you hoping to have this pre-construction meeting?
As soon as we have the plantings dated for delivery, so it should be in the next week or so.
Yeah, only that, people's lives are crazy, and so you just got to figure out a way to make sure that he's contacted and his input has been heard before.
Understood. I think then what we should do is I'll talk to Tom, and we'll try to coordinate a meeting with the neighbor immediately before even we do plantings, and get that understanding put together. And maybe Clay wants to just come out anyway, and we can do the pre-construction meeting then before the planning. So I'll talk to Tom, and we'll get that coordinated right away.
Yeah. And if you just have to meet with that property owner, you meet with that property owner, and it is what it is, because you just want to hear he was very amenable at the hearing, and I just wouldn't want his attitude to then be ignored. Since he was agreeable, I want to make sure that we take care of him. Or that you take care of him. Because he didn't do anything either. It was just his property. So, okay. So was there anything more on this?
No, this was just a scheduled update according to the enforcement.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
For the proper timeline to bring it in for an update. So we'll bring it back probably in 2 weeks or a month, depending on when the plantings come in, and we can provide an update when there's been substantial progress and we have a better outlook for long-term management.
Perfect. That reminds me that we should have a similar timeframe for that previous project, that we tell them to come back in a month and tell us where they're at. Somebody come back. Somebody get back. Okay. Mr. Arnold, yours good? Anybody have any questions for him that's here? All right. Thank you very much for waiting. Appreciate your.
Nope, my pleasure. Have a good night.
You too. Bye. Anybody else in the audience that we want to talk to?
There is nobody else in the audience tonight.
Okay. So now we have, what do we have to talk about? The order of conditions and.
Yeah, I emailed that out.
Yeah, I did see that.
So if you want to go, do you have that, Clay?
Yeah, I'll pull that up.
Thanks.
Are you going to pull it up on the screen? Or am I looking at it on my half screen? Oh, okay.
So if you want to go to the special conditions, the ones that are highlighted. So the first one, number 11, I'm just thinking of our discussion last time about not wanting all the water lilies and cattails. I just came up with requiring 25% of the mass of water lilies and cattails in the pond to remain intact, to provide for wildlife habitat and shading to maintain water temperature.
Has anyone been out to look at this pond? Has anybody been, do we know what this looks like these days? I mean, I kind of remember it being just like this shallow, sad thing. It was supposed to be a beautiful piece of this lovely street.
So Allison and Sue were both talking about, you know, the water lilies and cattails, and, you know, not removing all of them.
No, that's a great idea.
So I didn't know if we wanted to put a number to it, you know.
What do you think, Allison? 25%, is that enough?
Depends on how much of the cattails are covering the pond and water lilies. Do we know?
I don't know at this point.
We asked them to come back with us to verify what they think would be the most they could remain and still be, and still, you know, clean the pond. You know what I mean? Like not be a nuisance.
What's the footprint of the pond? Do we know that? Do we know the area? And then do we say a square footage?
Well, because yeah, I mean, because the cattails don't cover the whole thing.
Right.
Coming up with a square footage of just a particular species.
I think that's difficult. It's more like, oh, I don't know. I mean, I think that we should say that you know, I mean, enough so that it can provide a habitat. Enough.
But do we want to leave that to them to decide?
We could ask them to come back and make a suggestion. Is that possible? Or when you're going back, when you're going out there to look for, you know how you do a review in the field?
Well, how
The
about
pre-construction meeting?
Yeah, or how about that requires like, you know, you make a statement so that the conservation staff reviews the, like on-site reviews and in coordination with the staff, a percentage of.
I had better, because I don't know 20, because there may be very few, they just don't like it at all. So 25 may leave like 6
I just
points.
put in a random number, honestly.
That's why
Right.
I'm more saying that.
So,
You said, Janet, like giving it a, an on-site review and then, and you. can
yeah,
make it-
so prior, so maybe, is there a prior to treatment? What's before this treatment section? Can you roll
Clay, can you move it down?
the other way? Pre-treatment special conditions. Okay, so I made a copy of the proof plan.
So do you want me to add like a
Yeah,
pre-construction meeting to it to look
Yeah.
at the existing vegetation cover?
Yep.
Yeah, and I would say, Deb, you should be tasked with deciding on what stays and what goes. So you make the decision with the contract, you make the decision at the pre-construction meeting. Okay, well, I want you to save all the cattails because there's not that many, or I want to save half of them, and this is where I want you to save them. And that, so you're making that decision.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think
Well,
so.
you'll be able to figure it out. You've looked at enough ponds and enough, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Where does that fall? Does it fall under pre-treatment? Because a copy of the approved
Yeah,
plan.
I think that's where it should go.
Provide the commission with the name, address, and so is it become a new 6 or does it become an 8?
I think a new 6.
Okay, so that's the first thing under pre-treatment
Yeah.
is a site visit with conservation staff to occur prior
To
to any
determine.
treatment. To determine the extent of cattails and water lilies that will remain.
Okay.
How's that
Perfect.
sound?
Perfect.
Thanks, Sue.
Okay.
Lot of
Moving on.
encouragement. All right.
So we really weren't getting reports, I think, as we were supposed to.
Okay.
So we're supposed to get them annually, and they should have recommendations for the next year's treatments. And I put document progress towards minimizing the use of herbicides and algicides to
Where did you
control
put that?
nuisance
What does that say?
vegetation in the long-term management.
Okay.
Just kind of covering that piece that they're at least working on that.
Yep.
And the annual report we should get by December 1st of the treatment year, and that we can find them if we don't get it.
Okay. Is anyone going to tell
so
us that
we-
we can't really find them?
Sorry?
Is anyone going to tell us that we can't really find them?
No, we can find them.
Okay.
Yeah. Let's see. Can you go down, Clay?
So who are we finding, Deb? We're finding Solitude, right?
The homeowners association.
Okay.
Yeah, it would be the homeowners association. This permit does not allow for the implementation of hydro raking as a management method. If it's proposed, they have to come back before the commission and present this option for approval.
Yeah.
This permit allows for the installation and maintenance of aerators and/or fountains in the pond as installed by professional staff of Solitude Lake Management.
Does it have to, do we have to say I mean, couldn't they hire somebody else just?
Well,
can't it
we
be
have that
professional staff?
further up. Well,
I mean, I can see like a professional person needs to install it, but does it have to be Solitude Lake Management doing the installation? Or are they the only ones?
well, they are the contractor. It
Okay.
says further up in this order that if it changes from Solitude, essentially
tell
that
us?
we need, to
Okay, all
revisit
right.
this. So the permit does not allow for installation of aerators and/or fountains by residents of the Southfield Court Homeowners Association or their personal contractors.
Okay.
The success of the use of the aerators and/or fountains shall be discussed in the annual reports.
Great.
So we want to add a condition that they have to come back in a year. Is that?
Yeah, post-construction, that sounds like right after post-construction, shall be spent in writing, any request for.
I'll change it from construction to something that makes sense.
Post-treatment.
Thank you.
Post-treatment, yeah. And I think it should be 15.
Yeah.
Well, like the one above the last one.
Yeah.
That the homeowners association and their representative. I mean, they don't, I feel like they don't maybe have to bring their representative, but they might want to. Should present,
I think should come back within like, I would like to see them before the winter, like in the fall, to sort of, A, they can discuss the results that they've had, and B, outline for us a sustainable long-term treatment plan that, you know, makes use of natural ingredients and is not reliant upon artificial materials.
well, they're supposed to submit their annual report by December 1st. So maybe we say in December.
Maybe we say we would like, we would like a presentation of the December report in person to the commission.
Yeah, yeah.
It doesn't have to be December. If you guys
It could be,
want
yeah.
to move it
Right.
up, that's fine.
Well, no. I don't have any problem with December. I think that's a fine timeline. But that we should, yeah, they should, yes, Allison?
I don't want to say this, but just as discussion that there will be other things that they can do on the edge.
Yes.
And, make sure.
They can start having a
We're
buffer.
going in and not, planting things that will pick up everything and they can, I mean, I think that there's stuff you do in the pond and there's stuff you do.
So
outside.
considering plantings, removal of lawn directly adjacent.
And realizing and, there are different methods of control of geese and things like that. And the other thing is that the more a pond is shaded, the better that is. People don't like that because then it looks like a black hole, but it stays.
Yeah. So depending on the amount of water lilies that are in there.
It holds it down a lot.
Yeah.
And as you know, plants give off oxygen. As a byproduct.
Yeah. You know what I meant to ask that I forgot was the last order on this talked a lot about parrot feather.
I was thinking about that. They didn't mention that at all.
I totally forgot to ask.
But that was a big thing
the
that they
main
found.
thing that they were treating in the last order. And it was
Yeah.
only the second place in the state that it was
Yeah, it was a
found
big deal.
and all of that. So I meant to
There's
ask
one
if that
reason, yeah,
still existed.
why we let them, I think it must not, he would have had to bring that up again. I was wondering if this was the site that had the parrot feather.
Yeah, I'm sorry. That piece of
Right.
paper was underneath another one and I have no memory.
Yeah.
So, but anyways, I can shoot him an
maybe
email and just get,
maybe dredging is something that might be considered. I mean, I don't know.
yeah. I don't know if the homeowners association is going to pay for dredging.
Well, they may have to if they want a pond.
I was thinking that they should fill it.
Yeah, isn't dredging sort of, I mean, this is kind of come back to the reservoir out in back of our office, but that's pretty disruptive to like wildlife.
It is destructive, but at the same time, I don't think anything's off the table that isn't chemical. That's a mechanical.
So the goal is to have the association work with Solitude to come up with a presentation of how they're gonna long-term
Someone
maintain.
else, but we can't tell them that.
It doesn't have
I
to be
mean,
Solitude, yeah.
I don't want to say it has to be Solitude.
No, I
think that
totally agree with you.
they have that the homeowner association is to come up with a suggested means to Steve said a whole bunch of good things. What did you say again?
So, but
Long-term
Solitude is
sustainable
putting
food.
together this annual report. And you
Yep.
want the report, them to go over this report at a meeting in December.
With the
That would
homeowners
be to
association.
Hire another consultant, Deb, right? In addition to Solitude, that is more, that doesn't just throw chemicals at stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what Solitude does.
We know how limited the, you know, the people that do this work is, but okay. I will wordsmith something.
Great, okay. I think that would be good, because I think that's the idea, is to start coming up with, I mean, Walker Pond, we've tried so many different things, and I think that they might be getting ready to hydro rake it.
Mm, hello,
Yeah.
puppy.
Okay, where else are we at? What else we need to do?
Oh, the other thing before you vote on this, you didn't vote on this, did you?
No,
Good. Essentially, we need a waiver. Because they're
because for work
doing
within the
work
25 foot,
while they're doing it in a resource area.
yeah.
And in theory, we should be getting $1,000 waiver fee check for doing work in the. So you guys need to vote to waive both of those
Request
things.
the waiver?
I didn't see that they requested the waiver.
So, yeah, why would we give them the waiver?
Or the way
Because this is a good thing. I don't know.
Is it a good thing? I can't decide.
I know.
Yeah.
That's why I did this.
I think we should be careful because I think when they come back in December, we'll probably get on them then.
I also want to remember that, again, I come back to the precedence thing, you know, have we given a waiver for Walker Pond and some of the other places that we've allowed stuff to, you know, them to do this? So
True, that's a good point. We did give the waiver for Walker Pond to do work.
Was that the town project?
Yeah.
Walker Pond?
Yeah, the one they just came to us.
I mean, there are differences. I'm not saying that this is, I mean, Walker Pond had, you know, all kinds of issues with, you know, the sewer leaching basins
Yeah.
from the abutters, and the town is working to remove that stuff. So that's one thing. These people, it doesn't seem to me like they're really making any effort to be more sustainable.
Right.
Right, and it's private property, right?
And it's an unnatural lake. I think, you know, isn't Walker Pond, maybe it was man-made back in the
No,
day.
that's a natural lake.
So that's another distinction. So,
So do we not want to vote to issue this tonight? And I will ask them to put together the waiver request.
Well,
Or
the
do we
thing is,
just ask them
they
for the
knew they needed
$1,000?
to. The idea was to get this done as quickly as it can.
What happened at the last order of conditions?
So it has included in this order as well that, let's see, the commission finds that the proposed aquatic management plan does qualify as a limited project under 310 CMR 10.53. The Conservation Commission voted unanimously to grant both a waiver for work within a water body and a waiver of the waiver fee. So that was in the previous one.
Well, I think, Allison,
I kind of remember saying the same thing the last time around.
I kind of remembered too.
Yeah,
which
I
is
do.
one reason I want to do it in a year from now and not 3 years from now, because we'll never remember.
I mean, I kind of think we should get their attention. I'm sorry. I don't care what, you know, and also the guy, I'm not going to say it in a public forum.
Right, you're being recorded. So, I mean, I do feel like we they should have asked for the waiver. They should have asked for the waiver, and I should have asked for the waiver fee. So to do the work, we have to grant them the waiver. We don't have to grant the waiver fee, but it seems a little like we, as Steve said, we have granted that waiver other years and for other ponds that are trying to improve their water quality. So I guess I'm in favor of granting the waiver and granting the waiver fee this time but they need to come back to us come December 1st, and so that we want them to come back in December. Granted, that's always a tricky month because of the holidays. So maybe by.
You want me to have the report due November 1st?
No, because that's also a hard month, but I think the report's due December 1st and they need to come to us before the end of January to talk about the report and to talk about their plans for coming up with other strategies. What do you think? I'm just talking. So
Or what? Or what? What if they don't?
We'll find
well,
out.
then
that.
then maybe we apply. We can find them if they don't
find them. Because
know
that's a
that.
special condition. And
They should know that we will find them, and then that's the waiver fee. Somehow there's some kind of financial.
well, you know what I can do is I can require at our pre-treatment meeting that people from the owners be there at the pre-construction meeting, and I go over each of the special conditions. And that way they know we'll fine you if you don't come in and do this.
Yes.
Want me to do that instead of just meeting with Solitude?
Yes. Yes. It would be much better if a representative from the homeowner association was there at that pre-construction meeting so they understand, because they don't understand.
Right.
As Stephen Farr said, the homeowners need to be involved.
Yeah. We might as well get them involved now.
Yeah, they need to be involved.
Perfect, Deb.
All right.
All right, what else? So we need a motion to issue the order of conditions. I know. So first, do we have
Well,
to do the
first you
waiver?
need to approve the waiver.
Okay, so we need a motion to approve a waiver for work within a water body.
So moved.
Come on, guys. I need a second.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor? Peter?
Aye.
Stephen?
Aye.
Sue?
Aye.
Allison?
Aye.
Yeah, aye. Okay. I need a.
Waive the waiver fee.
Motion to waive the waiver fee.
So moved.
I didn't know you were gonna do it.
A
Steve.
second.
Okay, all in favor? Peter?
Aye.
Allison? Sue?
Aye.
Stephen?
Aye.
Janet? Aye. Okay, now we need a motion to approve the order of conditions as amended.
I move that we approve the order of conditions for 0 to 11 Southwest Court as amended.
A second. I give me a chance.
Thank you, Sue.
Okay,
All in
I
favor,
second.
Peter?
Aye.
Allison?
Aye.
Sue?
Aye.
Stephen?
Aye.
Janet? Aye. Great. Are we done with that one?
Yes.
Okay, what else do we have to do?
So does anyone know that they're not going to be at the next meeting? Since there's so few of us now, I just want to. All right, so Peter, you will not be at the next meeting. Okay. Do we know where we stand as far as getting applicants or anything, Janet? Do you know?
You were on that same one that I was on.
That's
so
all you've seen.
and I've heard that Mohandle knows somebody that has a science background. So that's good.
Hopefully it's psychology.
Allison?
So I'm coming back from Spain that night, afternoon, and I'm gonna be pretty wiped. So
Okay, we're talking about.
You could just put a
June-
picture of yourself up and.
the 9th. I mean, I'm
June
not
9th.
sure, you know, I mean,
I wouldn't count on that, Allison. That's, yeah.
I'm gonna be
You're,
really
you're not gonna be in
tired.
shape to be at the meeting.
And I have 2 babies and I'm helping taking care of in a plane all the way home. So
Oh gosh,
Ooh,
you'll be really
enough
tired.
said, enough
yeah,
said.
maybe.
Want to be in that flight.
And Peter just said he's not.
Right.
Peter's not available. So that leaves us short. So what do? We tell them we don't have a quorum and we don't have a meeting?
Where it stands right now is we did not receive any new filings for June 9th. So if we receive a certificate of request, presumably it can be pushed to the second meeting in June. We don't have any continued hearings from tonight. 1297 Central Ave should be coming back, but we didn't set a hard and fast next meeting. We said 2 weeks to a month out. So
Okay.
in theory, it looks like we could push out the June 9th.
And does anyone know if they're not going to be at the second June meeting?
June 23rd. Okay, so as soon as, if anybody finds out, so it looks like we'll need to cancel the June 9th meeting. Everything gets pushed to June 23rd, and if anybody finds that they cannot be at the June 23rd, let us know as soon as you find that out.
And that's still virtual, the 23rd, right? It's still virtual.
Yeah, we have till July 15th.
Okay.
So.
Okay.
All righty.
That sounds
And I've
good.
been
So,
forwarding you guys some different things, like from the town manager's office.
Yeah.
You know, different things you can join. So,
In our
anyhow,
free time.
yeah, I'll just keep sending them to you. Okay.
Thank you.
Sure. Thank you.
oh, we need a motion to adjourn.
I move that we adjourn.
I second.
Yay, Sue.
Bye.
All in
Bye.
favor? Bye.
Good night,
Bye,
everyone.
guys.
Thanks for your help.
Oh, one last thing.
Yep.
For those that the dog wants to say goodnight and
Ah,
like having an infant. And so last time people came to my office to sign things.
Oh, right.
So we'll keep with that theme then. That
That
worked out
worked.
for people.
That worked.
Okay,
Okay.
cool.
And when will it be ready?
Soon, very soon. So Monday's a holiday, right?
Yeah.
Remember, I'm
So-
gonna be gone.
Huh?
I'm gonna be gone.
You're gonna be gone? When?
Spain starting Sunday. Can it be before Sunday?
Okay. So
Can you
I
get- can you
will,
get it there
I'll
tomorrow?
have the, so,
Tomorrow,
the
all right,
signature
I'll
pages.
just get stuff ready tomorrow morning.
tomorrow
Clay,
closed at noon.
what?
Summer hours. Tomorrow we're closed at noon.
Thank you. Good point.
You
So
won't-
could you come by tomorrow morning at some point, Allison?
Yep.
Okay, I'll let you know.
Well, I mean, I could. I'm taking care of the babies tomorrow. I'm work all week.
You want me to
but-
come to your house?
Yeah,
I can do that.
that'd be awesome.
I'll
Because
come
I'll
to your house.
both in car seats and then both have just have come at 11. So it's
Nah,
like,
I'll just come to your house.
I could, if I could come at 8:30 or 9 o'clock, are you gonna be done by then?
I don't
could-
know. I'll just
could
come
do
to
it.
you. I'll just come
All
to
right.
you.
Okay, well, thank you.
have a
Sure.
great trip to Spain.
What?
Have a great trip to
Oh,
Spain.
thank you, thank you.
Yeah, enjoy Spain.
Mm-hmm.
That sounds
I'm
awesome.
jealous.
Yeah.
No, I'm jealous of myself. I haven't, it's been a long time. since I've gone anywhere.
Have fun.
Joy.
All right,
Thanks,
I'll be in
everybody.
touch.
All
Yay.
right, you know where I live, right?
Yes, I do. It's a very confusing area down your street. I remember the first time going, where's her house?
Yeah, it's the second house on the left.
Yes, I remember now.
Okay.
I'll find
All right,
you.
thank
Don't worry.
so much. Okay,
Thanks.
bye.
All right.
Bye.
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 Bye, Sue. Bye,
Hey.
Janet.
Thanks, everyone.
Night, Jim Bob. Night, Clay.